It's amazing what several little yellow stars can do to improve your business online and connect you with people who've never done business with you before. Today, what I want to talk about is online reviews. And this is a fascinating area, and it's a strategy that just about any business owner can adopt and work with, and it doesn't cost that much. It's not an expensive thing to do, okay? But let's face it, if you don't do it right or you don't do it consistently, you can get some really poor results. So what I want to do today is help walk you through what it would take to create a review strategy for your particular business or for the company that you work for, so that over time, you can basically get what every business that does a great job with this gets. One, they get credibility. And I'm going to walk you through some stats here that are going to kind of lean in that direction. So you need to know that. But the second thing is what's called social proof. And it's the whole concept that other people many times make decisions based on what their tribe or their community or the people kind of in their network do. So everybody's looking around to see what other people are doing. And if everything of the tide is kind of going in one direction, they're more likely to jump on that bandwagon. And reviews can produce an incredible amount of social proof, which can allow you to compete with much bigger competitors in your space and do a fairly effective job. What I'm going to talk to you guys about today is four things. First, we're going to take a look at some, just not a ton, but a few critical review stats that hopefully will clarify the need for doing this. Because once you find out how reviews are looked at and how they're used, believe me, if you don't have any reviews or you don't put any time into it, you don't really care about it, you're going to change your mind. It is a critical element of marketing your business. The next thing I'm going to do is talk about how to determine the right approach for your particular business. You know, creating a strategy is something that you can develop a pattern for and a consistency for. Maybe delegate it off to somebody else in your organization and just be able to work it ongoingly. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the do's and don'ts of asking customers for reviews. There's a lot of things out there that people are suggesting, but there's a few that work really well, and there's a whole lot of things you shouldn't be doing. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is the various types of reviews, customer reviews you can get from people, or testimonials, things like that. And depending on the kind of business you have, could really, really help other people understand why your business is so distinct in the marketplace. All right? So let's talk first about some critical review stats. Number one, you know, the internet's been around 20 some years, and social media got its start kind of this watershed year of 2004. But I would say for the last 10, 12, maybe 15 years, depending on the category you're in or the kind of business you have, reviews have played a major role in how people search for and decide to buy from businesses. So 95% of the customer base today, the public, uses reviews to make a decision of, number one, are they going to buy this product? Number two, who are they going to buy it from? So that's over. I mean, that's almost uniform. It's almost like nobody goes without doing that. You probably have a few people that know the category or the business they want to go to, and so they don't really need to look and find anything new. But for the vast majority of us, reviews play a critical role in how we decide to buy. The other thing that's interesting, and again, if you go out on the internet and you do some research on this, you can find industry studies, you can find studies from higher education, institutes. A lot of people have dove into this to figure out what are the secrets to reviews. You know, what do you have to do to maximize your time and effort in terms of doing this? One of the things they found is that over 80% of people that are out there looking for a business to do business with or a product or service that they want to buy, over 80% of people look at reviews and consider them to be as valuable as if they were to get word of mouth from a friend, from a next door neighbor, a relative, a professional network referral. Over 80% of people are looking at the stuff that's being written online and thinking that that's equal. So again, if you have the kind of business and you're very proud about the fact that you don't have to do all this extensive marketing, everything is word of mouth, and online nobody can find any reviews on you, you're kind of shooting yourself in the head. So that's another area you should be looking at. The other thing is that people that are looking for reviews, looking for validation of the business that they want to buy from, over 67% actually, will not buy from a business that has less than 3 stars. So 2.5, 2.8. When you start getting down to that 1 to less than 3, it's almost the equivalent. It's probably worse than having no reviews. But right there, people are like, okay, there's got to be better out there, but I'm not going to do business with somebody that's got less than 3 stars and 200 reviews to back that up. So you have to kind of know that there's a consequence to this. Now, one of the things that I get from folks all the time is how do I get people to leave reviews? All right. Well, here's the stat on that. Of all the ways that you normally can think of to get people to put a review on your site or on Google or Yelp or wherever your company resides, where that would be the best place to let them pile up. Only about 10 to 12 percent of the people that do business with any business will feel compelled to leave a review. Now that number jumps to double if people feel that it wasn't a good experience. People are twice as likely to go out and put down something critical, something negative, if they feel it wasn't a good experience dealing with that company, as they would to put a really positive review. And most of the stuff in between. So really what you're left with is people that review based on great results, great experience, they're really happy that they made that choice. And people that are not happy for whatever reason. They feel like they got cheated, they feel like they got disrespected, the follow-up wasn't there, whatever the case may be. So those are the two ends of the spectrum. Everybody in between, there's no reason to give a review. It's like, okay, I came there, I got what I wanted, everything was fine, no big deal. That's the biggest reason why the vast majority of people who are in a position to leave a review or asked to give a review don't do it. Here's the other interesting thing. If you ask people to leave a review and you tell them why it's important that they get a review, about 7 out of 10 people will actually do it, which is crazy when you think of all the times you've probably sent people a follow-up email, or there's been something at your cash register or something else on your website that asks people for reviews and nobody pays any attention to it. People need a reason. People need to be invited. And part of the show today, I'm going to tell you some of the better ways to be able to do that. So those are just some of the, what I call the critical stats around why having reviews out there is so important, why you just can't neglect it. You can't just say, okay, if I get some, I get some. If not, no big deal. It is a big deal because people are looking for them. They're using them to figure out who they're going to make decisions to buy from. And if you're in an industry where you have absolutely no competition, I can't think of one right now like that. There might be one out there, but if you're like that, then you don't have to worry. But if you've got a competitive set, meaning you've got other people in your geography or your region or your industry that essentially provide what you provide, you have to find a point of distinction. And the best way to do that is with reviews. So let's talk a little bit about how to approach a strategy. You could have a lot of different businesses. It could be an insurance company, it could be a family law practice, you could have a chain of hair salons, it could be an auto repair service, you could own franchise restaurants. There's a lot of different, business to consumers. And while I'm thinking about it, if you're business to business, this works the exact same way. Because mentally, regardless if you're in a consumer position and you want to buy a car, or if you're in a business situation and you need to upgrade the office furniture, in the suite that you have your employees at, you're still thinking the same way. It doesn't matter what venue you're in when you're making these decisions. So it works B2B as well as B2C. Here's the first thing you have to figure out. What is it that people would leave a review about? Now, if you're a store that sells hardware, okay, you got hardware products all over the place, plumbing and electrical and lawn and garden and things like that. Most of what people are coming in there for is to buy product. If you're an insurance company and you're providing a service for people, it's a completely different thing. But what you really have to figure out is what is it people are looking for in my business that if I really, really went to school on this thing and I was the best that the market had to offer, I could get good reviews on. Here's the way you figure this out. I've talked about this before when I've given other talks on various marketing strategies, but best way I know how to do this is pull up Google Maps, like you put in there if you're trying to find some place that you want to go to. In the search bar, put the category of business that you're in. So I've done this before, and I just put in business coach or executive coach. But whatever your business is, hair salon, auto repair, put it in there. Hit the button, see what comes back. you're going to learn a couple things. Number one, you're going to learn at all the other companies that fall into that particular search. And Google is kind of pre-programmed today to where if you don't put any city designation in there, most of the time, based on where you are and where your computer is, that's the results you're going to get. You're going to get local market results, okay, which is what you want, unless your business doesn't really care about where you reside and you draw business from all over the world, all over the country on a regular basis. Most of the time, people want to have an idea in the given market they're in. If they're in LA, they're in San Diego, they're in Denver, they're in Houston, they want to know where they rank, because most of the time people are looking for businesses that are in close proximity. So you put in that, you do that Google search and you look at what comes up. First question I'm asking is, am I there in the list? You'd be surprised at the number of people that don't show up. Secondly, you're looking at who else is in the list. Is it a short list? Is it 8 or 10 listings? Or does the thing go on for page after page and 40 or 50 listings later, you run out? So you really get a good idea of how many other people are occupying that space that your potential customer has just done a search for. Then start looking at who's got stars. That's what I opened the show with. It's amazing how a few little yellow stars can cause somebody to make a purchase decision and go in that direction, because we've all been conditioned to look for stars. All right, 4 to 5 stars, you're in the money. Less than 3 stars, you got a problem. So you got to figure that out. But you also have to look to see what everybody else is doing. All right, because once you get an idea of who's out there, who's done a really good job with reviews, next thing you do is you start clicking on their site, on their listing. Go in and take a look at what are people recognizing them for. What particular services or interactions or help or solutions or things are these companies providing that other people are saying, yeah, I really like that. Man, you guys ought to go there. These guys are 5-star all the way. At the same time, you look at the other end and say, if you've got companies out there that have got 2.5 stars and they've got 57 reviews, what is it people keep coming back and saying they don't like? Once you know what people want and what they don't want, then you need to go back to your own business and say, okay, are we meeting the mark? Are we doing the things that we do best, what we consider our distinction in the marketplace? Are we living up to that when the customer walks in the door or calls on the phone or meets us for whatever reason? You have to get this part down, because if you launch into a major review gathering strategy and you haven't done this, all you're going to do is invite people to come in and complain about the same things they were doing with your competition. So you have to kind of clean up your own business act first and make sure you understand what is your hallmark in doing business with the public or with your business community. Because once you understand what that is and you've diminished the things people historically dislike about going to other people to do what you do, it's much easier to not only ask for reviews, but get reviews that are good, as opposed to piling up ones that are 1 and 2 and 3. You don't want those kind of reviews. You might get 1 or 2, and there's actually some strategy out there that talks about the fact that if you've got 95 reviews and they're all 5-star, that's not actually good, because most people today don't buy into the fact that every company's perfect. But you definitely don't want a truckload of 2s and 3s, because that is very difficult to get out from under. First thing you got to do is you got to check your competition, see what people are into, see what people want to avoid, and make sure you've cleaned up your own business process first, so that every engagement is going to be exactly where your customer wants you to be. So those are the first 2 things to do. Understand the value of reviews and what they can do for your business, and then next figure out what your particular customer set looks like, your industry or your local market. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the do's and don'ts. One of the things I hear a lot from people is, can we give people gifts like a Starbucks card or something if they leave a review? My answer is flat no. You do not want to do that. There are some review sites out there. Yelp is one of them. I think TripAdvisor might be that same way. I don't know about Google. But there are some sites out there that if they catch you doing that, how would they catch you? I don't know. But if they catch you doing that, they will completely take your listing off the site. Okay? They don't want you out there bribing people to give reviews. The second thing you want to refrain from doing is ask the customer, gee, would you like to give us a 5-star review? You don't want to lead them. Many times, if the customer hasn't had a good experience and you don't know that when you ask that, you kind of, it's kind of like, okay, we know we didn't do right, but now we're going to ask you to treat us like kings. And sometimes people will go online and just out of spite give you a 2. So you don't want to lead people. You just want to ask them if they'd be willing to to give you a review. Now, here's the best way to do it. When you know what your sweet spot is, what people come to you for, what they expect from people that do business in your category, and you know you've delivered on that, that's at the point where you ask the customer or the client, say, you know what, reviews are really important to our business. We don't spend a lot of money on pay-per-click or other kinds of TV ads or things. We really rely on our great customers to help us spread the word. How was your experience? Find out. Let them tell you. If they loved it, they'll tell you. Okay. They might not tell you if they didn't like it, or maybe they would. But if they do, that's great because you learned. But if they know and they told you, say, look, would you mind leaving a review? And you can either follow up with an email and give them an actual link to take them to whatever review site you want to put that review on, or you can hand them a card if you're meeting them in your office or they're in your place of business, so that when they go home, they know how to find your review slot. Don't leave it up to them to just figure out where to put it. Okay, there are a number of sites out there that kind of dominate in terms of review. Facebook, I think, is about 20 to 22% of all the reviews left online. Yelp is right behind them at around 18, 16%. Google is hovering at around 14%. And then you get into TripAdvisor and you get into some of these other ones that are really, really niche-y and are very, very specific towards particular industries. If you're in the legal field, Abo is one that ranks attorneys by reviews that are left. You really need to know where's the best place to house your reviews. You don't want 5 on Google and 9 on Yelp and other ones scattered all over the place, because the whole idea is to get them boxed in one area where people are going to come most looking for your service. And then they're going to see a little bit of volume there. If you have 3 5-star reviews and everybody else is way past 20, okay, it's great that you got 5-star, but people are going to look at that and think, okay, either you haven't been around long enough, or there's some other reason why everybody else has got a whole bunch of reviews and you don't. So you really want to try to figure out what that website is that you want them all on. That's where you steer people to. Hey, if you wouldn't mind leaving us a review, kind of telling people about your experience, would you mind leaving it here? And then you give them the link to be able to go there. The other thing I discourage people from doing is using automated systems to try to generate reviews. Right now, today, with our whole system of being online all the time and virtual in nature and a real absence of person-to-person, people are getting inundated with this stuff in their email boxes or on social media. And most of the time, they're just trying to get it out of the way. And unless something happened while they were doing business with you that really made them think, wow, I need to go do that, chances are they're going to blow it off. You're much, much better doing it individually on a personalized basis. Now, is that slower? Absolutely. But it's a whole lot more effective. It's more effective to be able to talk to people individually and make that ask than it is to just automate the thing and send out, 200 or 300 a week, depending on the size and volume of your business, and have nobody respond. You're much better doing the ask, because in the process of asking, you may learn something about their experience that will help you understand why they liked it, why they didn't. And if it's a problem, you can correct it before other people find out about it. So those are just some things to think about in terms of asking. Again, you want to ask. People will comply if you ask. 70%. All right. If you don't ask, they're going to assume either they're not important to you, you're not collecting them anyway, or they're just going to forget. Okay. So it's real important to get that ask out there. Now, let's talk about the final piece here, which is what kind of reviews make sense? Well, there's your standard, what I call a review post. It's usually no more than maybe a sentence or 2. Okay. These are okay, and certainly you want them. But what I always tell people to do is when you're asking somebody for the review, whether it's a follow-up on an email or whether you're giving them a card, with the actual the site link on there, just put a sentence or 2 about what you want them to leave. Most of the time, and I'm sure you've noticed this if you go out and look at these reviews, I've looked at hundreds of them, and it's amazing the pattern that surfaces from doing this. People will put a 5-star review and say, great, loved them, you guys should go there. What does that tell you? Nothing. In fact, a lot of times other people will look at that and say, gee, is that real? there's really no detail about why that person rated them so high. They didn't share any kind of personal experience or thing that they loved doing business with this particular firm. But yet, if you look at the ones and twos, sometimes these things are that long and they are going into excruciating detail about why they think this business sucks and you shouldn't go there. So you got to realize detail matters. And most of the time, what I do is I'll talk to a client, they're getting ready to finish their program. I say, look, it looks like you really got a lot of great things done. I'll say, yeah, I'm doing this well. Would you mind sharing that with some other folks? Go to my site here, Google, and just put down your experience. Just tell people what it was that really changed up your ability to run your business or be an executive. Just give them a little detail so that they understand where you're coming from. And when you ask people to do that, you'd be amazed at how some people will get very, very detailed, but that's okay. Because if you have a service business, you want people to understand exactly what the experience was like doing business with you and your firm. If you're mostly selling products and service or just products, it's not as important, although you do want them to talk about the experience because that you can control. You may be selling a line of products like tires, and there might be 15 other places within a 10 square mile of you doing the same thing. So now you can't really compete on tires. You've got to compete on the service part of your business. But that's where the detail comes in. So that's like a short review post. Most of the time you'll find them on Yelp and Google and places like that. One of the other things you can do, and again, this is really good if you're working with a client, difference between a client and a customer. A customer might come in periodically throughout the year and buy the same thing. A client is there with you. It's a relationship. You're working ongoingly throughout a period, maybe to get something big done. Well, that engagement comes to an end, okay? So sometimes, if you know the client well, you might want to ask them for a case study. Now, all that is just a really long review. But a lot of people like reading these things because it gives them an idea of, gee, if I went to this person and asked for the same thing, what could I expect in return? Most of the time, when I started doing this, I was a miserable failure at this part because I wasn't asking the right questions. So when I finally smartened up and realized how to help people write case studies, I would put together a template and I would have 7 questions on there. And all I ask them to do is fill out the 7 questions. And when you bring it back, I take the questions out and just put little subtitles. You make a nice little, maybe 2-page, sometimes 3-page case study. You put it on your website. You put it in other areas, your LinkedIn profile. There's a lot of places where you can put things like this for folks that want more detail than just a review post. And believe it or not, depending on the kind of business you have, if your business is fairly complex, if you're a consultant of some kind, you're dealing with marketing or you're dealing with IT or something like that, a lot of times people really want to know, okay, what kind of problem did this person come with and what happened as a result? You can't always fit that into a short, Google review. So case studies are really nice things to do. Now, one of the things that I love doing, and if anybody says yes to it, I'll jump on it quick, is asking them for a video testimonial review. You can use Zoom. Zoom is perfect for this. And all you basically do is you use the same case study format and you get them on Zoom and you push record. And then you say, okay, we're just going to have a short interview. I'm going to ask you a few questions. You respond. And when they're done, all you do is you edit yourself out of it and you've got a perfect video case, a video testimonial. Again, depending on the kind of business you're in, if you want people to get a really, really acute understanding of how you operate when you're working with clients, nothing beats a video testimonial. They're not the ones that most people are going to say yes to. Everybody's got their own, hesitancies about getting on video, but a lot of people will. You'd be surprised. And most of the time, I'll ask somebody, hey, would you like to leave a review? I mean, I've really enjoyed working with you, and I think you've gotten a lot out of this, but it would be great if you could tell your story to other folks. Sure, I'll do that. I'll say, okay, well, you've got 3 choices. You can leave a simple Google review. I have a template for you to write a case study, or we can do a video testimonial. And I let them choose. And it's amazing where people land on this. Doesn't matter. The point is you're getting them to commit to giving their feedback that you can use online to build your review, your review strategy out there in all the places that your business is listed. So think about this, okay? Do the homework and figure out what your industry looks like. You'd be surprised if you go type in certain industries, like if you were looking for yourself, you'd be surprised at the number of companies out there that have been out there for a long time and have nothing, no reviews at all. So any kind of impact you make in an industry like that can rocket you to the top immediately. So do a little homework to figure out who you're competing with. Get a little strategy together about how you introduce the idea of asking for reviews and why you tell them it's important to you. Because if they've had a great experience and they know it's important to you, least they can do is help. And most people will. If you ask them for help, they'll help you. And then just come up with ways to serve up options so that people feel like they have a choice. Depending on, if they love you, they might want to write a case study and do a video. And that's great. But give them some choices. And that way you get a nice blend of different things out there for people that like to read versus watch. And it's a great way to build that social proof, that credibility in the marketplace. Believe me, if you're a recent business, if you've only been in business 3 or 4 years and you don't really feel like you've got much market awareness or branding, reviews is a great way to do that, because it will help lift you up in the search engine, and it will also help other people get an idea of who you are if they don't know your name on site. So sit down and figure out how to make really good use of it. And whatever you come up with, make it simple and make it consistent, because reviews, they take a while. If you do this, I've been doing them for 8 years now, and it's amazing how well you start to do them and how well they work at getting other people to either sign that little, give me a call box on your website, or just pick up the phone or send you an email, whatever's convenient for them. All you want is for people to reach out and connect with you to find out more about you so they can determine whether you're the one they want to do business with. So I hope this has helped today. I love talking about this stuff because the vast majority of businesses don't do anything with this. And if you really focus in on it and you do it well over time, you'd be amazed at how well it will work in terms of bringing on new business and retaining the clients that you have.